How you doing, YouTube? Welcome back, man. Today we got a special episode. We got Staff Sergeant Neale. You know what, bro? Go introduce yourself, bro.
Staff Sergeant Lucas Neal. Been in the Army for going on 12 years this July. I've been stationed at Fort Polk and Fort Hood, Texas. I've been in 10th Mountain, 5th Aviation down at Fort Polk, which is Ops Group. Moved to Fort Hood. Was in 3CR for a little bit. Currently in 3rd SBAB as a military advisor, fresh off deployment. So I'm glad to be back home. And yeah, that's me, man.
Hey, man. First question that I like asking everybody: what made you join the military?
So joining the military, um, my grandfather was in World War II. My dad got drafted during the Cold War. There was kind of a calling there that I ignored for a while. It was kind of commonplace in my family to go to college after we graduated. And I had the self awareness at 18, and I have to say that it was a miracle. That I was able to realize this. I kind of looked around at the people I was getting ready to go to college with, and I was like, I'm not gonna make the cut, man. Like, I'm gonna flunk out. I'm gonna go join a frat. I'm not gonna study. I need to do something to make myself grow up. And the military was right there, kind of calling me. So I actually joined when I was 17. That was the beginning of my senior
Oh,
year.
shit.
I had a hard conversation with my dad. And me and my wife were actually talking about this today. I remember telling him, like, I made that decision and I was like, hey, Dad, I want to join the military because I knew he had to sign for me. And he just kind of sighed and he was like, I knew this was coming. And he was like, I don't want you to do this because, you and me have argued about you going to college or whatever the case is. Like, I want to make sure that this is really what you want to do. And I was like, yeah, like, this is it. This is what I want to go do. So that was it. We had a little bit of a disagreement at the recruiter's office because I wanted to go infantry originally. And
Oh, wow.
they had a option 30 recruit or contract open, and my dad was like, I want you to do something that you're going to be able to use once you get out. And so me, him, and the recruiter kind of talked. The recruiter was like, hey, if he goes to work as a scout, he kind of gets to do the stuff that he wants to do, where he gets to shoot things, blow stuff up, that kind of stuff. But he also is going to do a lot of vehicle maintenance, and then he can go work for like Oshkosh or General Dynamics or something like that whenever he gets out. And so that was kind of what swayed that decision for me to go, instead of going in infantry, to go to Cav Scout.
Damn, that's crazy though. But at the end of the day, both of them are combat arms.
Yeah.
So I guess he sold the recruiter sold the good.
Yeah, he sold it. He was a scout himself, and he sold it pretty well. At the end of the day, it was a great decision. I have loved this job for a long time. Um, so yeah,
So
it was great.
you went to basic straight like right after high school?
Yeah, I went to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia in 2012. I graduated May 27th and I left for basic on July 9th. So I had about a month out of high school and then I was off to basic training.
How was that? Knowing that you know 1 month knowing that you were ready to go to basic.
Uh, it was, I guess, enlightening in a way, for sure. It was like there was no buffer period, right? Like, it was, you are a high school student and now you are going to be made a man. And that was like, so I guess there was kind of like a shock and awe factor a little bit there. But I think I adapted fairly quickly. And that's, it made me better every step of the way.
So that month that you didn't have like second thoughts about what you did about the decision that you made.
Not really. Not really. I mean, I think, yeah, I think if any private goes to basic training, unless there's some like really bad circumstances and they, like, tell you that they don't miss home, I feel like most people are probably lying. Like, I think everybody, that first like separation from home and everything you've ever known, I really feel like if somebody tells you like, yeah, I just went in and I was completely comfortable, like, I don't feel like there's a lot of people out there like that. So for sure I had those thoughts of like, dang, like, what am I doing? But it wasn't anything major, I guess.
Yeah, they should know we got Mackenzie watching right now. He just put a comment right there.
What's up, bro?
So once you got to basic training, how was that?
Uh so it was awesome. I think everybody has like some funny basic training stories. I had Mackenzie and I both had a drill sergeant. We were in the same platoon in basic training. We had a drill sergeant named Poison, but it was spelled poison, and I was like, "Holy crap!" Like we have a dude named Poison as our drill sergeant, and this dude was hard. So like shark attack initially, it's like just a panic of like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying not to get noticed at this point. Like, don't get yelled at. Like, that dude just spilled everything out of his rucksack 3 different times, like running up to the formation. He's got 6 drill sergeants around him screaming at him, like, just don't get yelled at. Um, so yeah, I mean, there was definitely so like that first day for sure was the initial shock phase of like, what am I doing here, man? Um, and then when we got there after shark attack, they put us in formation in our barracks, and they were like, "Hey, you have X amount of time to call home and like talk to your families, and then you're putting your cell phones in a bag, and you're not going to see them until family day." And I called home, and I remember my parents weren't at the house, and they didn't answer, and I was like, "Dang, like I'm not gonna get to talk to them except through like letters for months now." So put my phone in the bag, and I just remember like hearing some dudes behind me like start sniffling a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, this sucks."
We got a couple of comments. Jonathan Pecoraro, Neil, what's up, dog? You look old, brother. We we got Mackenzie. Where's the sun drop?
No
Not
sun
sure.
drop today, man. No sun drop. They don't sell it out here.
What was that? Sun drop.
Sundrop is it's a citrus soda that's specifically from Tennessee. So they don't
Okay.
actually sell it anywhere else in the United States, but so it's like a
Damn.
down home favorite.
Damn. So man, you couldn't make the call home. Uh, then what happened? First, what is it called? The red face.
Yeah, we go into red phase. It's just kind of it's at that point I think you just kind of go into like I don't want to say a survival mode, but you're just like trying not to get noticed. And that's what I did anyway. Was like if my dad my dad was prior military, and he told me, if you go through basic training and they don't know your name the whole time you're there, like you're good.
You're the
And
good.
so yeah, so that's what I was trying to do, was like, hey, I'm just trying to get through this without anybody even knowing my name. Like I don't want these drill sergeants to even know my face, know my name, nothing. And then I remember they came in to like set up squad leaders. It was like at some point during red phase, and the drill sergeant called my name out for squad leader, and I was like, crap. Like, he knows it. So then like I was on the radar after that. But yeah.
Damn, that's good. So, whenever do you have your orders to Fort Polk before you went in, or you find out during? I don't know how it worked for you.
So for me it was the day I left or like graduated at OSUT. They formed everybody up. They called your name, handed you a yellow folder. You opened it, and then it had your orders in there. And so like I opened it, and I saw like Fort Polk, JRTC, and Ops Group, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so like my drill sergeant like looked at my orders, and he was like, haha, Fort Polk, that sucks. You're going to Geronimo. Have fun, nerd. And so I ended up like I got amended orders, and they were to 10th Mountain. And I was like, okay, cool, because my recruiter had told me like when I went in, he was like, if you want to deploy, try to go to 10th Mountain. And so I like when I saw those orders like to 10th Mountain, I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna get the opportunity to deploy and go somewhere.
Okay, so you knew that Ted Mountain was a rapid deployment unit, but you didn't know
Yeah,
nothing about Polk.
yeah, I had no idea what like Fort Polk was. So yeah, I knew 10th Mountain was at Drum. And so initially I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to New York. And then like I
Oh,
read
okay.
the
Third
next
brigade.
line and yeah, and then I read the next line and I was like, Louisiana. All right.
We got a comment. Angel Mendez, Mabato Neil.
Hey, what's up, Mendez? Been a long time, brother.
Man. So you got your orders to Polk. You got out. Do you went straight to Fort Polk, or you would spend some time at the house with the
I went
family?
and spent some time at the house. I had, I think I took like a week of leave, went back home, packed up everything I owned in a 98 S10 and drove it from Tennessee down to Louisiana.
98 is 10. Huh.
Yeah.
Good truck. Good truck. I like them. Mini trucks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it was 3-inch drop on 20s. It was nice, man.
so how was your first experience when you got a Polk?
So I actually stopped at the Alexandria airport because we had a couple of other dudes that were flying in, and we were gonna pick one of those guys up and drive down to Polk, and we got on the Highway 28 that runs from Alexandria down to Fort Polk, and there's nothing on
Nothing.
either side of the road. It's
Nothing.
dark out. Like it was 2012, so cell phone service was non-existent out there. And so we're just driving down the road in a regular cab S10, just like, what are we doing? Where are we going? And then we ended up coming through the North Fort Gate because that was where like our GPS took us was the North Fort Gate. And we got there, and the dude greeted us, and he was like, "Hey, welcome to Fort Polk, home of the heroes. How are you guys doing?" And we were like, "Hey, bro, like we're new privates, and we have no idea where we're going. Can you help us out?" And he was like, "Ha ha ha! You're gonna hate your life here. Go straight." Like gave us directions, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude! Like, all right, there's not a lot to be said about that." But yeah, man, that was like my first experience at Fort Polk.
Damn, that's crazy. So do you 2012? Were we in New York? Were you back to Rear D, or you went straight to the unit?
I went straight to the unit. You
Okay.
guys were, I think, just coming back from West Point.
Okay. All right. That's what I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah,
So how?
I missed West Point by like I think 3 weeks maybe or something like that.
Yeah. So how was getting to the unit?
Uh, interesting, interesting. So initially they put me in HHT's barracks buildings, like the fairly newer ones. And I was like, okay, cool. Like these rooms aren't bad. And then I stayed in those rooms for like 3 or 4 nights, and then like they finally figured out like what troop I was going to and stuff. And Greyhawk came over.
Shit.
Greyhawk was my team leader, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm PFC Greyhawk. I'm gonna take you over to the barracks and like get you set in. Like you're going to Alpha Troop." And I was like, "All right, cool." So I grabbed my bags. We're walking over to the barracks, and I won't say the dude's name, but there was one of our soldiers that we're all probably familiar with that he walked up to the balcony of the old building and chunked a TV off of it and was like, "Screw that thing," and then walked away. And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "That's so and so. You'll meet him later. He's like that a lot." And I was like, "All right, man. Okay." Got set up in my room. And then went to work. Got yelled at every day. Got the dog crap smoked out of me for the first 3 weeks. Everything I did was wrong. So
What platoon
yeah,
you went to?
I went to red. I was in red platoon, first
Okay.
platoon. Yeah, so I had Sanchez, Corporal Sanchez at the time, Sergeant Rios, Sergeant Martinez.
Martinez. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Sergeant First Class Abrams was the platoon sergeant at the time.
The man, Serenades, man. I love that guy.
Yeah, he was a
Uh,
great dude. He was a great dude.
we got Mendez. Fuck yeah, good times. Yeah, I got kid. Yeah, man, bro. So that's foot man. It's just crazy. Like from the beginning, you're gonna hate your life at the gate, then to a guy throwing TVs. So
Yeah,
what you were like? What the fuck is going on, huh?
yeah, man. It's like, what is going on? And then I kind of got to I got to the unit expecting like, okay, things are going to be better. It's not basic training anymore. Like, and then I was dead wrong. Like,
It was
dead
worse.
wrong. Yeah, it was worse. Yeah, arguably worse. Like I was running, like doing changing drills and stuff, running from troop down to my barracks to put my ASUs on and run back up, then getting yelled at because they were dirty because I just ran through dirt for half a mile. It's like, dude, what am I doing? Uh, I for sure like I honestly like the first I think probably 4 or 5 weeks I was at Polk, I was like, I hate my life. This is awful. And like we used to do a thing in Rep Platoon called 20 questions or 20 and recover actually. So Sanchez would come by and he would like put his information and ask everybody like reconnaissance questions. And if you didn't get them right, you did 20 push-ups and then you got up and then he would go to the next dude. And I just remember him digging into me about like not knowing stuff. And I was like, bro, like nobody has ever taught me this. And then it drove me to a point where I was like, okay, fine. Like if this is the game we're gonna play, I'm gonna know everything this dude is gonna ask me. And so I had a Write in the Rain notebook, just absolutely chocked full of notes. And I would go back to the room and I would sit in the room and I would just like study stuff because I was like, he's not gonna get me again. Like he's not gonna get me again. And then I think like after a couple of weeks of that, like he came up to me and I knew at that point I was like, there's nothing that he's ever asked me that I don't have in this book right now that I know from the bottom of my heart. And so he rifled through like 5 or 6 questions and then he like nodded, moved on to the next guy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I made it. Like I made it through this test. And then he came up the next day and did the same thing, except he came up to me and he was like, your scout shit as good as I do. And then he just walked off. Biggest compliment from an NCO. Honestly, from 12 years of service, that's one of the biggest compliments I have gotten from another NCO was like when he was like, your stuff as well as I do. I was like, dude, like that's awesome. Sanchez was super hard on me. And like moving on years later, I realized kind of like why he saw like, I guess some of my potential, and he wanted to bring it out. And him being hard on me for sure did. And so I'm thankful for that. If he ever sees this, Sanchez, thanks for pulling that out of me. So I really appreciated that.
Nah, and it's I always say that it's the difference between a good NCO and just a fucking NCO. Good NCO always gonna break down the soldiers, gonna mold them back up, shape them back up, and like you say, he fucking build you to a better soldier.
Yeah,
It's some NCO that they really don't give a damn about soldiers, and that's the ones that I kind of hate. Like why you wasting someone else's time? Like if you don't want to do your job, you just move on and get the fuck out and let the next guy do it.
yeah,
Yeah, but
man. Like that's a big thing. It's like if you're in here chasing NCOER bullets and ratings and like the approval of people over you instead of worrying about the dudes that actually matter, like I have no use for you.
yeah. So how long you were in Polk?
I ended up staying at Polk for 6 years. Um,
Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was in 10th Mountain for 5 and then I moved up to headquarters and I was the post protocol transportation NCOIC for about a year and then I got orders to hood
What
and
was
I've been
that?
at post protocol transportation.
Yeah.
So I worked for the post protocol office, and I managed the transportation for all the DVs that came down to Polk to like observe training. So I worked not really directly with, but kind of like for Sergeant Major of the Army daily at the time, Force Com Commander General Abrams. Uh, General Milley was the chief of staff at the time. I got to work not for him, but manage kind of like his visit. Secretary of the Army, forgot who it was at the time that came down. Did a lot of stuff with the Freedom Fest. Kind of like managed transportation for the band and like the flag
Yeah.
ceremonies and stuff. So it's totally different look from what like I was used to doing. But it gave me a different side of the Army too. Like kind of seeing like there's more stuff in the entire Army than just like being a scout.
So let me back up a little bit. You say you were in Alpha Troop for Alpha Troop for 5 years.
Yeah, I was in Alpha Troop for five
So
years.
you deployed, what was it, in 2015 to Afghanistan?
Afghanistan. Yeah.
How was that deployment? What was your rank at the time?
So I left as a corporal.
Hmm.
I foregoed pre-deployment leave to go to BLC. It was WLC at the time.
WLC.
I went to WLC during that block leave period, and then deployed as a corporal, and then I actually picked up while we were downrange.
How was that deployment?
It was interesting. It was definitely interesting.
How's that?
Um, yeah, I mean, we got there. We went straight to ECP operations. I was on night shift. Not a lot ever happens on night shift until it does. Um, so you know, a lot of stuff going on there. Had some problems with the section leader that I was under at the time. Got into a couple of arguments with him while we were there. Went into tower guard during the winter. Nothing really happened on tower guard. I think we took like one rocket attack during that winter.
Where were you
Uh,
at?
do what?
Where were you at? What part of
Jalalabad.
Afghanistan? Jalalabad. Okay.
Yeah, Nangarhar province. So Jaff, Jalalabad airfield.
Okay.
Yeah, so got like one rocket during the winter, and then the spring came and the passes melted, and they had a lot of rockets. So that sucks because there's nothing you can do about that. That's just kind
Yeah.
of
Just gotta
lay
wait it
there and
out.
hope it. Yeah, just lay there and hope it doesn't land where you are. So yeah, survived that, got through it, came home. Uh, yeah, so
So
definitely.
we got Mackenzie saying that you forgot the story about Angie from the Sugar Shack. Come on,
Yeah,
you
it's
gotta go back.
no, we're not gonna talk about that one.
Hey man, he just put it out there, man. People want to know now. I want to know now. You can't leave us
uh,
hanging.
so, gosh, yeah. So when we first got to Fort Polk, there was a bar there called the Sugar Shack, and it was a little country bar. Uh, we got in with a couple of the waitresses, a couple of the bouncers. They knew we were all underage. And they were like, "Hey, as long as y'all don't cause problems here, like you're good." So we were like, "Okay, cool. Like we'll go to our corner booth, we'll sit down, we'll hang out." So there was a fairly large woman there named Angie,
Oh
and
shit!
Angie was the bartender or bar owner's niece or something along those lines, and she, she had a orange tag that she wore when she was in the bar that meant like she had an open bar tab. And Carl was actually kind of fronting our drinks most of the time. So when we found out that she had this open bar tab, another one of our buddies that I will remain or leave unnamed in this, he came over and he was like, "Hey, see that girl with the orange tag in her hair? That is the bartender's or bar owner's niece or whatever. The orange tag is open tabs. If I sleep with her, I get one of those orange tags." So we kind of had like a vote, and we are like, "Brother, you got to go." So he disappears, and Carl ended up going to check on him, and he left too. And I was sitting there waiting for them to come back, and closing time hit, and they never came back. Um, so I went, I went and stayed with some friends that night. And the next morning, I get a phone call from this other guy, and he was like, "You need to come get me right now." And I was like, "Brother, I don't know where you are." And he was like, "I don't either. And you need to use your best friend of ours to figure out where I'm at and come get me right now." So one of the people I was staying with was like, "Hey, did he go to this house?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that person was like, "Hey, I know where it is. We'll go get him." So
Oh my god!
we went and picked him up, and he got dropped off, and him and Carl got out of a truck, and my buddy was so distraught that I watched him walk across 2 lanes of traffic, stop cars without even checking to see where, what was going on around him. And he was like, I'm upset. So he ended up, leaving with this girl. Got home, was about to do the business to get the tag, and he puked all over her. So, and then he passed out. And he woke up the next morning, like didn't have his clothes on. He kind of panicked and was like, "Hey, bro," like punched her like in the arm and was like, "Hey, did we sleep together last night?" And she was like, no, you threw up all over me." And he was like, "Oh, thank God." And she was like, wow, really?" And he was like, "No, that's not what I meant. Like, that's not. I should go." So yeah, that's the story that Carl's talking about. Sugar Shack was, one of those places that 18-year-olds, out on their own on the first time make some terrible decisions.
Hey, it was a lot of places like that right outside the gate.
There
It-
was, there was in fact.
we got Angel Mendes with the Volkswagen on the roof.
No, that's Paradise.
Oh
Paradise
shit!
Bar had the Volkswagen on the roof. We had as far as bars went, I think we had like Paradise, we had Zydeco, Sugar Shack, and then Tailgaters. And I think Zydeco actually burned down here not too long ago.
Man, bro, the only time that I went to these places, it was to pick up drunk guys. Oh man, I feel like if you walk in, you catch something just by walking inside those
Yeah,
places.
yeah. Some of those
Like,
places were rough. Some of those places were
yeah,
rough.
yeah, and then they'll be like, man, so and so wife is working there. Like, come on, bro. Like, why you gonna do this, man? Like, no, man, don't do that. But yeah, man, those places were no good. They would put them
Yeah,
on the
they.
blacklist. They would put them on the blacklist every week, and people didn't care. Like,
Yeah,
if you go over here,
I think it was the pink lady always ended up on the blacklist.
yeah.
I never went in there, but I always like I would drive past it and be like, that just doesn't even look like a place I want to find myself if Jesus comes back.
uh, but anyways, man, let's go back. There's also good stories though. Let's go back to Afghanistan. So summertime hit, and y'all start getting busy out there.
Yeah, yeah, it got busy pretty quick. I think total count, if I remember right, I used to have a picture of the plaque in the Alpha Troop room. It was like 22 rocket attacks, um, multiple like VBID threats that hit. Nothing actually ever landed. As far as the VBIDs went, but rockets. We got our building smoked at like 6 a.m. one morning. Woke up, IDF alarms going off, and he's kind of like, we've been shot at so many times at that point with rockets. It was just kind of like, okay, like, I'm
You don't
just
even
gonna,
care no more.
yeah, like we were on QRF, so like I knew I was gonna have to get up and like run to the trucks and then like go check the point of impact site and everything. And then, so we're just kind of like sitting there, and then it rattles the building. And I remember, you remember McCool?
Yes.
Yeah, so McCool was my roommate, and brother, he was arms and legs trying to get out of bed, just flailing all over the place, and was like, "They hit us." It's like, "Yeah, man, I think they did. That was close." So we, take off running. We get to the QRF shack. I think we took like two more rockets just in like the 50 yards it took to get to the QRF shack. Um, got out to the truck, took a couple of more. We were actually supposed to go out that day and kind of figure out like where all these rockets were coming
They
from.
came from.
Yeah, and they called us off of it. They were like, "Hey, something's not right. Like we've never taken that many rockets at a single time." Like, and I honestly, I kind of feel like something got leaked. That like, hey, there might be some like Americans coming out here to look for these rockets or something. I don't know, but it felt very suspicious that many
Yeah.
rockets got sent in at one time. And that suspicion kind of ricocheted around to like other people, platoon leadership at the time specifically. I remember like LT at the time was like, they know we're coming, bro. Like they know we're coming. And then so I think they actually pulled us off of it. And if I remember right, they sent whatever SF group was there. I think it may have been seventh group. They sent seventh group out there to deal with it. Um, didn't really hear much back from that. Not sure if I know
What
they went out
happened?
and rolled some dudes up for sure. It's the timeline is kind of hazy. I don't remember if it was when they went out and like found a bunch of ISIS K dudes or not. But they definitely went out and like rolled some dudes up down there. And it was kind of like I do remember thinking like, holy crap, I'm glad we didn't go because we would have been a memorial. Like if there was that many dudes down there, like, and these dudes got rolled up by the SF guys, like like if they sent 20 of us out there, we would have been a freaking memorial. Like instead of you know getting to go home. Um. So yeah, a lot of rocket attacks. We never actually got hit directly. Uh, I had some other like interesting times during that kind of stuff. But yeah, yeah, fun
So
deployment, man.
now bad. Yeah, no, and it's I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing whenever like you get so many rockets coming in that you're like, damn, for real again. And one of the things that I used to hate is that we will go to the fob like every other month we'll rotate to go refit. And the one time you go to the fob, you get a hot chow, bro. Like,
Yeah,
and you're sitting down ready to eat it. Wow. I like, come on, man. Like, just let me, like,
just let me
come on,
eat,
bro.
bro.
Yeah, like, you don't even care no more. You're like, damn. But yeah, I know what you mean, bro. So, you got back from that deployment, and then what happened?
Uh, so I got married a second time. Uh, stayed. I was in a PCS. I went over to. I did a interpost transfer. Um, you almost stopped running to the concrete bunker. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So got married. Got divorced, and then PCS'd over to Fort Hood, and then got to Hood. Met a girl, dated her for a little while, had a baby. Things didn't work out between me and her, and that was my first daughter. And then eventually, after that, I met my wife, and I've been happily married. And we have a beautiful home up here in Gatesville with 3 kids. So life turned out okay.
Hell yeah, bro. That's good. So, whenever you left Polk, what was your rank at the time?
I was an E5 when I left Polk.
If I so, what you ended up doing at Hood?
So first unit was 3CR. And when I got there, they were kind of in that like phase out of the infantry scouts, and kind of like going back to 19 deltas as a battalion scouts. So I went to Saber Squadron, which is second squadron, 3CR. At the time, I was the highest ranking dude as an E5, so I was a platoon sergeant for a little while. Um, I missed a Syria deployment because I got left to deal with property because I was one of the only NCOs that had any experience with being a hand receipt holder prior to that. I was kind of pissed about that, but ended up getting a couple more NCOs in at the time. Started my section leader time there. Got promoted in 2019 to staff sergeant. I think I left 3CR, I think, with close to 48 months of section leader time. And then I tried to go to a different squadron in 3CR to go ahead and start working on my platoon sergeant time. Because at the time, we had 9 staff sergeants in that platoon.
Damn.
Uh, yeah, so there was a 3CR had like a real bad manning issue. I don't know what it was about Excel spreadsheets that was just beating these dudes up, but it was awful. So we had 9 staff sergeants. I had a couple of dudes that had just gotten freshly promoted. I was already KD complete, and I was like, "Hey, I got rumors that Long Knife Squadron doesn't have any staff sergeant platoon sergeants. Like they've got E5 platoon sergeants over there. They're hurting for dudes." So I put a 4187 in to go over to Long Knife to try to be a platoon sergeant because that was before they switched it. You could actually like get your KD time to rank below. So like if I went to be a platoon sergeant as a E6, that would still count towards my KD time as a platoon sergeant. They changed that here, I think like 2 years ago. But that was the intent, was to go over there and do that. They were kind of hesitant to let me leave. And then so I ended up staying in Saber Squadron, and I stood the sniper section up, which was a fight with the leadership because they didn't really see the benefits of a sniper section. So I got the opportunity to kind of like stand that up, prove the usage of like the worth of having snipers. So that was a pretty awesome time. That was something I had always wanted to do anyway, and I got the opportunity to kind of stand that up and um, get that foundation set for the guys that came behind. And then they ended up moving a bunch of people around. I ended up being a section leader again for a couple more months. And then I put in my SFAB packet and then went to 3rd SFAB, which is right here at Fort Hood.
What is the SWAT packet?
So SFAB is the Security Forces Assistance Brigades. They set 5 of them up. They have one at Bragg, one at Benning, one here at Hood, one at Carson, and one at JBLM. And then we had they actually reflagged 353rd down at Polk. It's kind of like our 6th brigade, and they were a support brigade that kind of like went TDY and OC'd basically like all our Valexes and stuff. And they ended up just actually disbanding it recently in this like recent R struck that came out, just because like we don't have enough people. But basically, like each brigade has a major area of operations. So like 3rd SFABs is CENTCOM. So we go into CENTCOM, and we work in Jordan, Israel, Afghanistan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Oman. So it's basically like all those countries that are in that CENTCOM AOR that
Yeah.
we can go to and kind of we work with their militaries to just kind of like give them advice on systems and processes and say like, hey, this is, you guys are doing it this way, have you thought about doing it this way, like you guys are
Basically
we just
retraining
did it.
them.
Yeah, it's kind of a retraining thing. Like on this last rotation I just did, I was with UAE, and it was kind of just like showing them our doctrine. We did a lot of like Battle Drill 6 stuff with those guys, land navigation. The first time they had ever seen an 8-digit grid. They do stuff off of
Damn.
6 digits, so 8-digit grids like blew their minds. So we got to like set up a land nav course for them, out in the desert. Do some like desert land nav with them. Um, Went and did some like live fire stuff with them. Got to see like how they maneuver, how they operate in that kind of environment. We were attached to an infantry company. Um, so we got to do a lot of stuff with those guys and kind of just like work with them on like, hey, like this is the 8-step training module and these are the troop leading procedures. You guys should take these and apply them to your processes and then kind of see like how things change. Um, so it's a cool job. It's for
I
sure a
was
cool
gonna tell
job.
you that sound like that's pretty sick, bro. Like, is all the places you gotta travel to, you gotta be able to work with other companies, train other people. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool job. It was kind of there's a misconception about it, which I guess is rightfully in place. Um, People are always like, "Oh, you guys think you're SF?" Like, no, we don't. We literally got stood up to make sure that like SF could go back to doing what they were actually supposed to be doing instead of like advising the Afghan National Army like they're going back and doing covert operations and like kicking in doors and stuff, the kind of stuff that like SF is actually meant to do. So a lot of people like kind of took that and ran with it of like, oh, if you're in SFAB, you think you're SF. Like, no, we structured ourselves like after like the SF model. Um, so it's like a 12-man team. Everybody has different MOSs. So there's a lot of different like subject matter experts in different fields, like one medic, one supply dude, one commo guy, one intel dude, one fires guy, one infantry dude, one cav scout, and then like a team sergeant and a team leader, and that's your team. Um, and an engineer. An engineer. You're supposed to have an engineer. So cool team, small team. It's cool to work in that kind of environment. Like I haven't seen a private in 4 years.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's there's pluses and minuses of it. I think like it's a good thing to keep like dudes on a rotation in it. It's like you come here as a broadening assignment, you do the thing, you go back to the line, you get your KD time, and then you're supposed to come back. I don't foresee them making it like a full time MOS. I just don't think it's sustainable, especially with the way like recruiting is right now all over the board. The entire army's hurting for recruiting. SFAB doubly hurting for recruiting. So a lot of dudes are like filling positions that like isn't their actual MOS. They're just kind of having to like learn it and then, do the best they can. Um, I think like on my team specifically, it's mostly like infantry and scout guys. I think we have one medic and one logistics dude, and then everybody else is a combat arms guy that's filling a different role. So
Oh,
yeah, it's been fun. I wish there was a different mindset, like at the leadership level. That's kind of ruined it. Um, a lot of like the 3CR first cav like mindset has come over in the senior leadership position, and they're like, "Oh, we are a BCT," and it's like we're not. We're not a BCT. Like you can't task 12 guys like it's a 40-man infantry platoon and then
can you
expect
explain people what BCT is?
brigade combat team. So brigade combat teams, I think your average platoon has like 40 guys in it. You have 3 platoons per company, and then roughly 4 companies, 4 to 5 companies, I guess, if you include HHTs and or your headquarters and your support troops. So that's a I'm not going to do that math, but that's a lot of people.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well,
Um,
the only reason why I say to explain is because I had another guy, a Navy guy, watching the channel. Like, y'all talk about things, and I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm trying to,
yeah, he
that's
said.
why.
I think I watched him. Was he on last
Yeah,
night?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
heard
that's
him
why.
explain like their platoons are called companies.
Yeah. So that's what
Yeah,
I would like companies. But anyways, let me go back to the comments real quick. Jonathan Pecoraro, how do you feel becoming a sergeant with the way the army was starting to change into?
that's a rough one, man. Yeah. So it's hard. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. It's definitely, and it's a lot of it is the reason that I am deciding to ETS this year. Being an NCO is difficult. It was difficult before I left the line and went to an SFAB. You can't. It's not like it was like when most of us that were in here came up in the army. Like you can't just smoke dudes and expect like everything to be okay. Somebody's gonna yell at you about actually disciplining your guys, which is insane. And that's why I think we're running into a lot of the stuff that we're running into now is because we've removed the ability for NCOs to actually instill discipline in their soldiers, and we are a weaker fighting force because of it. Um,
So it was one thing that you mentioned at the beginning, your first 4 weeks of Fort Polk, where you got smoked every fucking day. But one of the things that people did to us, it was they would tell you, "I'm gonna break you to remake you into a better and shape you into a better soldier. So if you cannot break down a soldier, how they expect you to train a soldier?
Yeah, and I mean, that's the problem. I mean, that is the problem. You're taking dudes that, especially, and I hate to say this because I'm not that old, I'm 30. Um, but you're taking guys that, are 18, 17, 18 years old, and like it's a different generation. A lot of these kids weren't even alive when 9/11 happened. So they hear stories about it, and it's like the guys that we looked up to as NCOs when we were privates were in the surge. Some of
Yeah.
these dudes, like our first sergeants and sergeant majors at the time, were in the desert, Desert Storm and stuff. So it's like, um, there was a completely different mentality at the time, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And I hate to say this to you, I don't think we're going to see a change in the way that uh, leaders are allowed to lead if we don't go back to war. And if we go back to war, we're going to lose people because we got so soft and complacent in the off time that that we created. We didn't create warriors, we created social justice warriors. um and I it's difficult. It's I hate that it's become what it is. um and like I said, it's like one of the reasons that I decided, like, hey, I'm going home. If I can't train my soldiers the way that I think they need to be trained, if I can't be a leader, then why am I here?
One of the things that it was engraved into our heads, it was like you gotta train the way you're gonna fight.
Yeah.
It
And
was
if you
no
fight.
soft training. It was not, you know how it was back in the day. So is to me, whenever I got out in 2015. That transition was going over. That's when they came out with the stress cards. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Like it was shit like that. Like you cannot be smoking people because that's hazing. You cannot, scream at people. So to me, the way I was, it was different. Not to do it. Like it was hard on me. So it's. I think I got out at a good time. But man, like I can only see. I talked to Wilson. He's still active duty, and I see that he's adjusting. He's hardly adjusting like the way things are. Even though he's on first arm,
Yeah.
he hates it. He hates it
Yeah.
because he can't do anything. So
Yeah.
it's
And
like
that's
when,
like they've removed the train as you fight mentality.
yeah,
And like we've gotten so far away from it that, you know, we're kind of moving into like, I've seen it on like WTF a couple of times where like people are complaining about not being able to have their phones in the fields and stuff. Like, yeah, cool, man. I'm gonna take my phone to the field anyway because I have a wife and 3 kids at home. Like something might happen. But we also are not instilling in our guys the amount of discipline that it's like, okay, if I go to war and I am fighting Denovia, we'll say that, like if I'm fighting another major threat and I can't have my phone, I have the mental fortitude to be able to set it down, leave it, and go fight a war because of the training that I've been through up to that point. I've been yelled at, I've been shot at. I've done, multiple training events where I was cold, wet, hot, sweaty, all of them. And now, like, I know, like, I've done it in practice. So I know, like, when I go forward, I've done it so many times that it's almost muscle memory to be in a crappy situation. Um, and we're not doing that kind of thing anymore. We're giving guys stress cards. So now it's like, show me where Taliban cares about your stress card. They don't. They're going to shoot at you regardless of how you feel about the situation. Um, and that's We are so worried about optics and NCOER bullets and OER bullets, that we're not caring about our dudes. We're not allowing NCOs to train their dudes. We're not letting company commanders plan the way that they should be planning, because at the full bird colonel level and above, we are so worried about getting promoted to star, or we're so worried about getting promoted from lieutenant colonel to colonel, that we don't care about anybody below us. And we're at a point right now where the kind of like senior leadership that we grew up with is non-existent.
And then the problem is, I don't think it's in it. Well, the way I see it, it doesn't exist because the way the army is going. Because the way I see it, you got to raise as a soldier a different way. And when like we were talking earlier, Beardon was my mentor. Beardon broke me the fuck down. Like at one point, I hated him. Like bro, like when I tell you I hated this fucking guy with all my heart, until we had that conversation. Like he's like, look, you got, and me and him had this conversation. That's why, like, I always respected him until today, man. Like, fucking, I will go fucking see him, like him and his family. We're like family, bro.
Yeah,
But he's like, whenever he told me, like, look, I'm doing this because I see potential in you. I know you can do better, but you just don't know yet. So once he told me that, I just fucking like whatever you fucking tell me to do, that's what I'm gonna do.
yeah,
Sanchez did the same shit to you on a different way.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like people don't understand that fucking doing that, you can pass that on to the next guy. You can leave that legacy behind. But if they, cutting your arms, how you gonna do it?
yeah. And
So
that's, you know, every NCO has a different leadership style, right? And I remember, I don't know if you were around for Edmonton when he got there.
no.
Sergeant First Class Edmonton. Okay, so Ed told me something that kind of like stuck with me for years, and he was like, "Hey, man, you're not gonna like everybody's leadership style. Take what you can from every single leader you have,
Oh
and
yeah.
build your own leadership style as you become an NCO." And so like at that staff sergeant level, when I first got to like that section leader level, I was super lucky to have a great group of dudes anyway. But I've never been a yeller, right? Like I'm not just gonna scream at dudes just to scream at dudes. Like I want that to be reserved for, like, if you hear me raising my voice,
For a reason.
like it's serious. And half the time when I was smoking dudes, I wouldn't even like yell when I was smoking dudes, because I learned that through like my own actions, I had the respect of my guys enough that I could talk to them like while I was smoking them and tell them like, "Hey man, I'm disappointed." Kind of like that dad telling you like I'm disappointed in you. And I realized that that was like more effective with these dudes than it was like yelling and screaming. So there's different ways, right? Like every soldier is different. I've had dudes that I had to yell and scream at to get them motivated to do anything. And then I've had other dudes where I didn't have to. And like if I yelled and screamed at them, they're just going to shut down and they're not going to hear a word I'm saying. So there's different, like every single person has a different leadership style. Every soldier has a different like learning ability. But when you tell NCOs, hey, you're no longer able to form your own leadership style, this is how you will lead, and there is no other way to do it. And like you said, you're cutting the arms off of NCOs. That's why the retention rate for NCOs is as low as it is, because guys are like, I'm not going to do this, man. I'm not going to risk getting a dishonorable discharge because I lied, or I yelled at a private. They lied and then said that I said X, Y, and Z because I hurt their feelings. And then, you're screwed, because where we're at right now, chains of commands, command teams are not going to take the word of that staff sergeant over the brand new private because they're worried about the optics. And those OER bullets, man. OER bullets are absolutely killing the military from the inside.
That's great. Let me go back to the comments real quick. Earlier you were talking about the army. Jonathan Picaro say preach it. Mendez say that's a fact. You said the best, Neil. What that hit? Then we got Pecoraro again. They will put a 7.62 right through the card. Yeah, you're talking
Yeah,
about the stress card.
Taliban.
Yeah,
Yeah, through the stress card.
yeah, and it's like I don't know, man. Like I feel like society in general is getting weak, and that's also affecting the way the military is performing. Um, how looking back at I always go back to basic training. Um, Singing all the cadence, they're already training you to kill. Like they make it seem like kill is normal. Taking someone else's life is gonna be normal. Is nothing. I don't know. Like now that I'm out, I listen to all that shit that we were singing, and I was like,
It's pretty dark.
damn. I'm fucked up in the head for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like we go back
Yeah,
and I was like, man, I was singing that every day during basic training, and that was normal. But now it's like they were preparing us, if you in a way, to be had do what we had to do. You know what I'm saying? To
yeah,
come back home and bring everybody home. But now it's like, how you gonna train a killer being soft?
yeah.
Like
And you
go ahead.
said something. Like we listen to those cadences and stuff, and like all the things that we say, and like the jokes that we make. And it's like, I've said it too. We come to that realization like when we take a step back and kind of like look at it and then say like, oh, I'm fucked up. So I'll just put it out there. Like I've gone to BH before, right? Like I've had to like come to that realization like, hey, something's wrong. Like something's going
Yeah,
on in my dome piece that's like not where it's supposed to be. Whether that be like, life stressors from the two divorces and the bad relationship with my kid's mom, or like being shot at, or whatever it is. Like I came to the realization like, hey, something in my head's not where it's supposed to be, right? Um there's the best way I can put that is like, we're special people in special circumstances. Um, there's not really, we're not necessarily jacked up for, thinking the way that we do, but we're put in situations a lot of the times, not so much now because we're not in an active conflict, but like when we were in an active conflict, like there are people out there that actively want to kill you. And
yep,
now you are in a situation where your testicular fortitude depends on you going home to your family and your friend that's right next to you going home to theirs. There it's not pretty. War is not pretty. Nothing about the army when you're actually training people to go to war is glorified. And like I think society tries to glorify like the military as like, oh, they're heroes and they're the perfect person and they're the 1% of the world. There's nothing pretty or glorified about war. And that's kind of one of the things of like, I thought naively when I was 18, I was like, I want to go fight. And then you get in those situations and then you realize like, this actually sucks. I don't like this at all. like, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be here to do this thing. Um, but it's not, it shouldn't be glorified, I guess, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, man, it's like I think it's a lot of thing. Like it's a thing that people struggle with. Is kind of like the something's wrong with me, and it's I really don't think it is. We're just different from what society. We're
honestly,
It's a different tribe. You
yeah.
know.
So one of the things that it hit me, bro, during my deployment is that a lot of people think about, man, how many kills I have, man, what I did today. To me, that was something stupid to do. Like that was the I don't want to know a number. I don't know what the fuck happened. What I was worried about was coming back home. During a firefight, bro, I would lie to you if I tell you, man, I'm thinking about my family. I never thought about my family during a firefight. That I can tell you right now. What I was worrying about was the guy was next to me. What I was worried about was that guy is getting shot at right now, and I'm over here. I was worrying about like somebody backing me up. and so I can get out of this fucking shithole and move to the next one.
Yeah.
That was my worry. And then right after the firefight, like hell yeah, we going home. You get that feeling, right? But to me, what would fuck me up is that I would get to my little fucking bunk, and on top of my bunk, I had picture of my daughters, my wife, and my mom. And then I would sit down, and I'm like, and that could have been me today. You know what I'm saying? Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't hit you until it hits you, and then once that shit hits, it's like it's on another level. But then you gotta fucking hit the rack, wake up the next day, and that feeling is gone already. It's fucking stupid, bro. Like I say, you're getting rocket out, you're getting shot at, and like, bitch, can I please? Like, I'm thinking, I'm like, man, I just want to fucking eat, right? Like, you see, like, your mind is so fucked up that you're not thinking about, oh, I might die. No, like, I just want to fucking eat this shit right now. Like,
Yeah.
you see people running, like, well, can I please just eat? Like, I take it to the bunker. Like, what the fuck? So it's like, a lot of people, they see, oh man, it's good what you did, but they don't see everything that goes behind closed doors.
Yeah.
It hits everybody different. To me, it fucking like it will hit me after I got back to my bunk, but then it will be like nothing. It will be gone. But then
Yeah.
now that I'm out, and I got all that time thinking, not that I have, I opened the channel for a reason. Like I know a lot of people struggle the first year coming out, adapting to civilian life because you're gonna break your routine. You got a routine already every day. You already
Yeah.
know what you're gonna do tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. Once you get out, you don't know what you're gonna do. I cannot plan like I had a plan for today. Work happened, so I was like, damn, I cannot be bad. I had to be back home before
Yeah.
7 o'clock because I made this compromise. But it's like you have to make shit happen. So
Yeah.
it's unexpected shit, and that's what people like don't realize that, while we're on the military, we got everything in time. We know what we're gonna do for the next couple of months or couple of weeks. Once you get out, you don't have
It's
that
day
fucking
by
days
day.
no more. Yes, you don't have that no more. And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people fucking start going like, man, did I really make the right choice? So
Yeah.
it
I think so like one of the things that I've talked about like in some of my counseling sessions and stuff is one like removing the stigma around it. Like so many like everybody's dealing with something, right? Like if you went to war, you're dealing with something in one way or another. And like for me, uh it's a lot of like compartmentalization, right? So like stuff happened, and I have a box in my brain, and I've taken those things and I put them in a box, and then it's like, okay, I'm not dealing with that anymore. I'm on to the next thing. It's kind of like you saying, like,
yeah,
you get back to the bunk and you're really like, oh crap, dude, like something's wrong, and then you're up and you're gone again. We take it, we shove it in a box, we're done with it,
yeah,
and then eventually at some point the box gets full, right? And then that's where like stuff starts to kind of like spill over into the personal life, and maybe you're having problems at home, or maybe you're drinking too much, or stuff comes up when you drink, which was like one of the problems that I had that I will openly share was like, when I would get a little too drunk, stuff that I was holding on to and had compartmentalized and was in the box would start to come out. um, and so that was kind of where I was like, like I might need to go talk to somebody about this. Like something's not right. Like I'm not who I want to be. Something is not in my head is like working the way that it's supposed to. Um, but we're so wrapped around like the we can't go talk to somebody because we're combat arms, and like we don't do that because there was that stigma around it when we were coming
yes,
up, that was like you can't go talk to behavioral health because you're either trying to get out of the army or you're absolutely nuts. Like you can go talk to somebody and not be suicidal. Like, and that's where like so many people that don't go talk to somebody because that stigma is there end up, you know, I've got the shirt on. It's like that kind of stuff happens, man. And I think I'm glad you're doing this, right? Like, so this whole the podcast and everything, because it like it brings the opportunity for people to talk about this kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and for like people to listen, and kind of help remove that stigma that's around it of like, hey, it's not okay to go talk to somebody. It absolutely is okay to go talk to somebody. Active duty, it doesn't have to be behavioral health. You can go talk to a therapist and be like, hey, this is what's going on in my head, can you help me process this? And then they'll help you process it, and then like their whole job is to help you get better so you can go back to being a lethal weapon
yeah.
in a fighting force. Um but yeah, it's a one of the other things that like I think is important, especially like us doing this podcast, right? We have gotten so far removed from like the tribe mentality, right? So like society makes us isolate ourselves in a way. So you're in your own lane, you're doing your thing, you're not really worried about what your neighbor's doing, you're not really, you're not relying on other people. We are so self-reliant as a species that we have, turned off a lot of the stuff that allows us to, communicate the way that we're supposed to. And there's a book called Tribe by, I forgot, Sebastian Younger, I believe. And I've been reading it. It's a great book for anybody that's listening, or for you, man, if you want to read it. It's a great book. It's like $11 on Amazon. I've been reading it just to kind of like open my mind as to far as like, hey, like it's okay for me to hit Carl up and be like, hey, man, I'm not having a good day today. My mind's not in a good space. And then him be like, yo, what's up, man? Like, let's talk about it. And then vice versa, him do the same thing to me. Like, hey, I'm going through some stuff right now. Be like, all right, bro, let's like do a FaceTime real quick and we'll talk about it. And those just small conversations, like, can keep somebody from teetering off the edge one way or the other. And I think like we need to do that more. A lot of the times, like, I unfortunately, I don't think I've gone a year, um, in like the last probably 7 years that I haven't gotten like a text or a phone call like, "Hey, so and so is no longer with us. They killed themselves," and that sucks. Like it's not good. And then it's like once a year, you think about like, "Hey, I wish old boy was still here," right? And then in that moment, the team or the old platoon or like whoever will text each other and be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Like whatever. And it's like, why don't we just do that regularly? Why does it take one of us like not being with us anymore for us to have like a conversation just to check up on one of our boys? Um, and I think we should do that more. And that's kind of like I was really hoping to get that out like in this podcast of like, it's okay for like you to call your bro and be like, "Hey man, like I'm dealing with some crap."
So look, one of the things that I like about this conversation that we're having right now, not just the fact that you're still active duty, but also the fact that you being active duty, asking for help, you know, realizing that you needed that help and you getting it. Um, I wish I would have done the same thing while I was active. I had to wait until I got out. It didn't hit the way it was, like you say earlier. I didn't want to look weak. I didn't want to show people that I was crazy per se, even
Yeah.
though that's not it. But it's like I was afraid for people to find out that I was going to a psychiatrist. I was like, man, everybody's gonna be, thinking less of me. They're gonna make fun of me, whatever. But then I realized that the more I talk about it, the easier it gets. The more I do this right here, the easier it gets. So it's like once I realized that, is like, you know what? I did one video by myself, and that video started it all. So I was like, damn, if one video reach out to three people, what if I bring people in that can reach out more people? This right here is what I want people to know is that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to call
Absolutely.
somebody. He been here. Master Sergeant Infante, my boy David. I met him through the cars. I love cars, and he got a club Semper Fi Familia, so I knew from the get go that he was a Marine. Then come to find out, he lives close by. So
Yeah.
we hang out, but we never talked about military career. We always talked about cars, about shows, about events. Literally, he called me. It's an event going on for 7 to 10 tonight. But he's like, he will call me like randomly, like you said. What's going on, Troop? You need a hug today? You need to talk
Yeah.
about anything? He's like, man, I'm good, bro. You sure? Yeah. What about you? Man, here, just having a drink. And like, it's those conversations that random, like fucking sometimes it's 10 o'clock at night. This motherfucker calls. Hey bro, I'm having a drink. You good? Yeah, you good? Yeah. And we just fuck around for a little bit. All right, man, catch you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fucking Natarino fucking was calling me while we're doing. That's why I was texting. Natarino call me right now. But like I call him in the morning. What's going on, bro? You good? Yeah. Are we rich yet? No, not yet. All right. So, but it's conversations like that. We got a couple of comments. Brandon McKenzie, meditation. Joe, what's the name of the book again?
It's Tribes by Sebastian Younger.
All right. We got Jonathan Becerraro, military talk. I truly believe it has given us a reason to reach out to others because we get caught up in the daily grind, miss each of you. Yeah. And that is true, bro. It's like, think about it. I just told you today, my day, while we're talking off
Yeah.
camera, it yesterday and today has been a hectic day for me, like really, really hectic. But I knew yesterday I had a live, and I knew that today I have a live. So actually, I'm making time to do this. Like, it's like, why? Because this is something that it matters to me. Like,
Yeah.
bro, like the more people can watch this, the more people that we can reach, the more people like. How can I tell? Like you say, we gotta prevent those 22.
Yeah.
It's like a simple phone call
Yeah.
can
I
prevent
mean,
that.
sometimes that's all it takes, man. It's just like you said, it's easy. It's a simple
Yeah,
call just to like say like, "Hey, man, you good? Like, I know you're dealing with some stuff right now with your family. Like, is everything okay? Like, let's talk about it."
yeah,
And those kind of things, like Carl's in here. Carl and I have drug each other through some dark times, man. Like, I have been through two really bad divorces. Um, and like Carl has been there with me every step of the way through both of them. To the point now, like I'm happily married and my life's great. Like we were there in the grind, in the trenches together,
yeah,
when things were not good. And it's like, um, he 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 actually had talked to somebody, and he told his therapist, like, or his doctor, like, "Hey, I'm going through a divorce right now." And that person was like, "Hey, do you have somebody that you can talk to about this, that like you hang out with regularly?" And he was like, "Yeah, my friend Caleb, we hang out together, every weekend. We're like at the house playing video games or whatever." And she was like, "Can you tell me about this person?" And he was like, "Yeah, he's going through a divorce too." And so she was like, "So what you're telling me is that you're a depressed alcoholic?" And he was like, "Yeah." "And you're telling me that your only other friend is also a depressed alcoholic?" "Yeah." And it's like, so like, while neither one of those things are really okay, uh, but having those two people together that are like, filling the gaps of like, "Hey man, we're at the bottom of the pit right now, but we're here together." Like we'll crawl out of this hole eventually. Those kinds of relationships, those kinds of bonds, those kinds of simple phone calls of like, "Hey man, like, is everything all right?" Like, those are priceless things that
and
can help us not have this number, you know.
yeah,
Um and I think we like Pecoraro was saying, like we're so into the grind, like, of daily life, that we're not, making those phone calls. We're not calling those dudes. Like again, society has isolated us from that tribe mentality. Um, and when we're isolating ourselves, we're weaker than we ever could have been. Um, and I think that's like, it sucks that, like you were saying, the stigma around, like, going and talking to somebody is like, oh, because I need to talk to somebody, I'm weak. It doesn't mean that. That's what we think it means, but in reality, that's the strongest thing you can do, is admit, like, hey, I might want to go talk to somebody about what's going on in my dome piece.
Yeah.
Um, Now, like, it's a hard step. Honestly, I think it's harder to go talk to somebody than it is to just try to keep it to yourself and shove it down. But eventually, the box is going to fill up and it's going to spill over. And then who is going to be the victim of it? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be your wife? Is it going to be your kids? Like, that stuff has to come out at some point before it's harmful to somebody you care about or yourself.
So one of
Uh,
the things that that are helping me a lot doing this, bro, is that like now I pay attention to people a little bit more, right? And this is not just for veterans. Um, we have a business store, right? We sell work uniforms here in Pasadena, Texas, and sometimes, like most of the time, I'm at the office only, and I got the workers outside on the floor. But
yeah.
sometimes I get off the floor and I go to the register. When you get bored being the computer all day, you get out. So I get out, and now I notice people. It was one guy that I like. It was just crazy, bro. You can tell when a guy he looks that he looks like he wasn't good.
Yeah.
And
Tell
I
something's
was
up.
like, man, what's going on, bro? You good? And he's like, you don't even want to know. I hope you're not having a date that I'm having. And then I was like, that answer tells you something, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, look,
Immediate.
man. Yeah, like, look. The only thing I don't know what you're going through right now, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. You and I woke up this morning, right? How many people didn't wake up this morning?
Yeah.
And the guy looked at me. He just started crying, bro. And he's like, "Can I talk to you?" Like, yeah. Fucking, we moved to the side. Fucking, we talked for like 20 minutes. And the guy fucking like, you know what? I don't know you, but thank you. And that was it, bro. Like, it was just fucking. Sometimes I don't know if it was a video or something that I watched that says us as men, we don't we don't check on each other. We don't we don't tell people like we're not doing good. We keep all that shit, and I'm the same way because I don't want my family to see that I'm weak. Why? Because if I'm weak, they're gonna worry about shit.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing good, they're gonna know that we're not gonna be doing good. So we carry not just as a veteran, as a military, as a soldier, but it's like we carry that fucking shit just by being man, bro.
Yeah.
And a
The
lot
weight
of
of your
people,
family. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, that sometimes it's like you just gotta ask one question. I don't know who the fucking guy was. I just know that he left better than when he came in. First and last time, I haven't seen that guy, but he's like, he's like, thank you. He just like, thank you. We got a couple of comments. Jonathan Pecoraro, give us a chance to hold on, give us a chance to come back together, but also reach out to those who might struggle. Hats off to you, JC. We got Mackenzie. We went from being drunk kids to fathers together. Yeah. Joe Cardenas, family always worries about each other. That's love. Jonathan Pecoraro, that's the truth about not wanting our kids or our wife to see that. And that is true, bro. Like, sometimes you gotta fucking eat that bullet. Like, fuck
Yeah.
it.
And I mean, bro, I am, like, I can't tell you how blessed I am now. My wife is ex military. She was a striker mechanic for a while. Went on the trail as a drill sergeant, and then she got out. And so, like, it's so great to, like, have that support system at home. and like be able to come home from work and be like, talk about military stuff with my wife and be like, and she understands everything. But
Yeah.
I'm it's a rare thing, a lot of dudes don't have like that same understanding in their spouse of like, she gets like, my unit sucks at planning. So like, hey, I'm gonna be home late. Like this is what happened. Like it frustrates her, but like she gets it. So yeah, it's a lot of the times, man, and that's like I feel like that's why the divorce rate is so high with like soldiers and stuff is because, we don't communicate. We just don't. We like to be blunt about it, we suck at it. We suck at communicating with our spouses a lot of the times. Um and like there are some ride or dies that like, have hung out with us and stuff, and God bless them. Hats off to them for hanging out with us as long as
So
they have.
bringing that into the conversation, Pecoraro is here. He was talking about like what helps him the most was actually opening to his wife about the shit that he did and everything else, and that's what helped him out. You talk about like, yeah, talking to your wife, he helps. But he's like, even if you don't talk to him, bro, at one point they're gonna know something is wrong.
Yeah.
I was going through a hard time at the beginning of the year, end of the year, and beginning of the year. Sleepless nights, bro. 3, 4 in the morning, fucking sit on the couch, like the fuck am I doing? Like, but I never say anything. But she noticed it. She started noticing, like, looking in the bed. I wasn't in the bed. I was in the fucking couch. And then once I fucking talked to her, like, boom, he was like, why the fuck I didn't do this shit since before?
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to fucking keep all that shit, but sometimes she's like, you let that shit out. Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
it's
I mean, they're our life companions, bro. They're there for us.
yeah,
Like we might as well like, and that's what we again. It's like we always think as the man of the house, we have to be. We are the foundation, and in reality, we are right. Like we are the foundation, but at some point, it's like like why are we keeping the struggles that we're having from the one person in the world that probably loves us more than anybody else does? And
yeah,
that person sleeps next to you every night. You might as there's some stuff like for guys that don't have military spouses, especially, it's like there's like some stuff she may not understand, and that's where like going and talking to a like military counselor may help. And but like my wife, she stays on me about like talking to my therapist and stuff. Because like if
so
she sees me like fading off, and like sees me like dealing with, she can catch me because like I brood. That's my thing. Like I am a brooder. I will zone out and like be thinking about something, and then she'll like catch me and she'll be like, "What are you thinking about?" And I'll be like, X. And she's like, "Why are you thinking about that? You can't change it." And it's like, "Yeah, yeah, you're right." And then it's like, "Okay, cool." Like, process it, move on with it. So like I am beyond lucky to be married to this woman. But for dudes that aren't in, that situation where they have a military spouse that, was a drill sergeant, like understands all that stuff, it's like go talk to somebody, man. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
yeah, no, and even at the beginning, bro, the first deployment, we were just fucking freshly married, and I told her like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be gone for a year. If I got back and while I'm gone, if you decide to go move on, don't tell me until I get back. It's like, she was like, why are you talking to me like that? Like, I wasn't expecting her to be around, bro, to be honest with you. Because, like, to me, the military was going to be my life. But then, things happen. I ended up getting out. But she's like, she been there since day one, bro. So, she understands. Like, with her, my family, I never talked about anything about the military.
Yeah.
Would you say, like, once we start drinking with other people, shit started coming back out.
Yep.
We got together, a couple of us. We were barbecuing at the house. We had a couple of beers in us, and once you get together, you start talking. And
Yeah.
I'll remember this. I'll remember that. She didn't say anything until the next day. She's like, "So what happened to you being in the, you know, and the cop all day watching movies. What happened to you not going out, not doing anything? And like, what are you talking about? Like, I was playing stupid still. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not what the fuck you were talking about last night. And I like, damn. I like, like that's how they find out about shit, like shit that
Yeah.
I did. But it's like once I opened up a little bit, it was I saw the difference. So I like, hell yeah, we can do
It's
that.
like a weight comes off, man.
Yeah, bro. Like it helps a lot. We got a couple of comments. She's fucking watching. That's right. I might not understand. It's like that's right. I might not understand everything you went through, but but I'm someone you can always bend to. Jonathan Pecoraro, 100%. Married my best friend. Got lucky. That's right. Yeah. And then Joe, I'm your ride or die love. She probably not. She don't let me have Sanchez, bro. She's selfish. She's selfish. Nah, but yeah, man. Like this is the main reason why we open up this, man. Like so people can see that it's okay to ask for help. It's
Yeah.
okay to get checked out. Um, it's okay to call somebody, pick up the phone one day and random. Yeah.
Yeah.
So man, hey man, I got a couple of questions for you. Let me see if I can get him. I got two pictures
All right.
that I was like, what the heck is going on in this picture? Let me go back. One of them is gonna be this one right here. What's going on right here?
All right. So that's from this last deployment. Um, my buddy, one of the guys on my team, is actually holding that Falcon. That's from our counterpart, our Emirati counterpart. He had three Falcons, and they're like roughly 150,000 US dollars a piece.
Damn.
And he has a Tahoe, and he rides around with three Falcons in it, and he'll get out and go hunt with them.
How was that? You got to experience that?
So I didn't actually see him hunting, but I will say like one of the coolest things that happened over there was we did a field op with these dudes that lasted for about 2 weeks, and it was a joint operation between a U.S. National Guard platoon and then our like infantry company from the Emiratis that we had worked with, and they we went to like meet their commanders, like match their commanders up and be like, hey, like you guys should talk about like these things for tomorrow. And we go into Captain Mansuri's tent, and he's standing there in his Emirati uh dress, and he's just on the cell phone with a falcon on his arm, and he's like, yes, come in. And I was like, dude, what a way to introduce yourself, man. Just like, yes, come in. And so like that was cool. But yeah, he let us hold his falcons and stuff, and we messed with him a little bit. So that was what that picture was. It's like a
Uh,
$150,000 bird right there.
so how many you gonna get?
None.
No, he said none. Let me see. Let me switch to the computer real quick. It's easier for me to get them right here. What the heck happened in this picture right here?
that's that's Fort Hood, man, or Fort Cavazos. Yeah, that's I think that's actually my lieutenant striker, if I remember right.
You got
He had a
stuck.
new LT, new driver. Uh, got off in some wet ground, got it stuck, and then we were trying to do it. We ended up self recovering that.
Oh, I didn't even
We
see the
ended up,
driver.
yeah, he's in there.
Well,
So
damn.
funny story about that. My wife was my hotel 8, so she was my recovery NCO for the squadron. And she actually did not have to come out and get me that time. She did, in fact, leave me on a live fire range at NTC for 3 days.
Let me see. What's another one? Where we at? Let me go back. I was going through my like, man, what the heck is going on over here, man? Uh, where we at? Oh, what's up with this one right here?
I was just TCing a striker. So like, I think actually right there I was in the platoon sergeant role. So I was like towards the back of a striker formation out here at Hood. So it's dusty. So I had bought one of those like dust masks off of Amazon. And then that was my helmet that some I think somebody stole that and I ended up with it. But it had like the Jedi Republic symbol painted on it, so I was like, "This is mine now."
Then we got this one right here.
That is
This one
actually
deal.
when my wife left me at on the live fire range, or not the live fire, but the impact area at NTC.
What happened that day?
So we were the reconnaissance element for the main force going through, and they SP'd us like at like 4 a.m. or something. It was like 3, 4 a.m. So I had one of those wrist garments, right? And so like I put my grid in for my first like stopping point, and I'm headed to it. So I get like, a couple clicks into the movement, and I'm in like some waddies at NTC. So like they're taller than the striker. I'm in like trails that I can barely turn around in and stuff. And literally blew out three of my tires on the striker, like just on rocks, like not even like hitting stuff, just on rocks. And I turned around, and the dude, one of the guys in that picture, so the dude on the bottom right, Marvin Resendez, he hits me up like, yeah, that guy. He hits me on the leg, and he's like, "Hey, bro, where are we going?" And I was like, "We're going to that grid." And he was like, "LT didn't tell you we changed it?" And I was like, "Nah, man, he didn't." So I was going the wrong direction, and so I was like, "All right, cool. Give me the grid that you've got." So like we had to stop, and I put the grid in, and it was like back the other direction. So we like turned around, and we're headed back down the wadi, and our OC stops me, and he's like, "Hey man, you've got like three blown tires," and I was like, "Yeah, I fucking know." So we drive off, and we get up over like a berm, and turn, and like it was a drop off on the other side, and I couldn't see it under nods like very well. So I told my driver, I was like, "Hey man, like go over this real slow, like hit it straight." So we're like not going over it sideways or anything. And he's like, "Roger." Goes over it, smack something. Don't know what it is, like smack something. So I was like, "What was that?" And he was like, "I don't know. I didn't see anything." And we get about 10 more yards, and he goes, "Hey, Sarn, I can't turn." And I was like, "All right, hey, like push through it, try to hit the gas, see if like it clears itself up." And he like drives another like 10, 20 yards, and he's like, "I can't go anywhere. I can't go left or right at all." So we get out, we check the striker, and we had hit a boulder, and it had snapped all of our track bars on the right side of the striker. So like everything on the suspension was broke on one side. So we sit there, like throw our spare tires off to the rest of the platoon, and we're like, "Hey, y'all just take them and go finish. We'll wait to get recovered." We were at that point, we were the only striker that hadn't broke down the entire NTC rotation, and like that was our that was us, man. We were done. So I get on the JCR, I send a report up. I'm like, "Hey, we're stuck at grid, blah blah blah. We need like Hotel 8 out here to recover us." Um, and I sit there for a day, and I don't get a response. And I'm like, "All right, cool." So I send up another JCR message, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, we're tracking. Recovery will be out there at whatever time." Night comes, we go to sleep, we wake up, we're still there. And they start like shooting. So at that point, we are on the impact zone, and they left
Damn.
us. So we're still wearing full kit, like it's gonna stop a 155 round. But I remember like I was sitting out of the back of my striker, and my legs were swinging, and one of the rounds landed close enough that the concussion like moved my pants legs, and I was like, "I'm gonna die out here." Like in a training event at NTC, because nobody came to get me. So the backstory on that was my platoon sergeant at the time had pissed my wife off because she was one of our mechanics. And so she was mad, and she was like, "Tell him to just drive it out." And so he called me and he was like, "Hey, bro, like mechanics are saying just drive it out." And I was like, all right, I'll drive it out. So like I get everybody back in the truck. We close up hatches and I was like, Correa, put your floor to the foot and just drive. And he was like, I can't steer. And I was like, I don't care. We're about to snap everything off the striker. We're gonna break all the wheels off of it. I don't care. We're gonna drive it until it like tears in half. And so our front wheel, I have a picture of it. I'll have to find it and send it to you. One of our front wheels was at a perpendicular angle and we were dragging it through the dirt and it drug like a 2 foot ditch for about 100 yards. And then like it got so deep the striker wouldn't move anymore. So I called my platoon sergeant back and I was like, hey man, like I drove it as far as I could. I made it 50 yards. And he's like, all right, well, just like wait for the mechanics, I guess. So we wait 2 more days on the same spot. Nobody comes. We're just eating MREs, hanging out in hammocks in the back of the striker, hoping we don't die. And we finally see a wrecker coming up to us, and we're like, oh my God, they're going to get us out of here. And dude pulls up, and he's like, y'all stuck? Yeah, man, we're stuck. And he's like, that sucks. And I was like, yeah, are you going to get us out? Nah, man, my winch is broke. Drives off. I was like, bro, you gotta be kidding me. So, and then eventually my wife shows up and she's like, hey, I'm here to get y'all. And I was like, thanks, I appreciate it. And to this day, she will like say openly, like, I left you out there because your platoon sergeant pissed me off. I was like, bro. But yeah, that
We,
was we made that sign, the Los Banditos is the Lost Boys, you know, or the Lost Bandits. So we were like, we're gonna fucking just sit out here lost, you know, just just chill, I guess. And then that's written on like an MRE box with a Sharpie that we like tore apart.
I was like, what the heck is going on in this picture, bro? That one caught my eye. We got a couple of comments. Jonathan Pecoraro can't spell lost without a LT. Jordan Skaggs says I ain't scared of Neil just because he's real.
I ain't drill, bro. My wife is.
Oh man, let me see. It was another one. Where we at? I'm telling you, man. I was going through this picture. Like, man, what the heck? What's going on over here?
So that's this last deployment. That's me standing with some of my Emirati counterparts, some of the dudes I train with.
Okay, so that this is the last deployment,
Yeah, yeah, that's probably like October of last year.
and then you got your special forces over here.
That's my old sniper section.
Okay. Yeah, we're training right there.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of our first field ops that we actually all went out on together to just kind of. That whole thing was literally to get those guys used to walking through the woods in the dark with those 2010s. So those the
Oh,
300 Win Mags that are down there on the front, they are long and they will stick on stuff. And so I just took the guys out to a training area and was like, "Hey, extend them all the way out. Put your nods on. We're gonna walk in the dark with them, and you're gonna see how it feels to carry that thing like under nods and move quietly, just to like figure out how far you can actually move without making a whole bunch of noise." So I think we were out there for like 3 or 4 days. It rained on us, and we actually chased our scout platoon around. So they were in strikers, and we were just like, we just kind of tried to like maneuver through the woods, dismounted on them without getting spotted and stuff, and like see if we could actually get shots on them. But yeah, that was probably the most fun job I've had in the army.
huh. It sounds like fun.
It was a great
Sounds like you had
time.
a good. I say, sounds like you had a good time.
Yeah, we had a
So
blast.
this reminds me of a picture I took in Afghanistan. What's going on over here?
So that is Afghanistan. That's at Jaff. We were getting ready to do a zero range right there next to the gate at Jaff, and it was a dead spot for comms. So we had the old Harris rifleman radios with like no screen on them, and you had to stand on the back of a Tata and hold the radio up to be able to get signal. So I was standing there trying to get a radio check to let them know, like, hey, we're occupying the range or whatever. And one of my buddies, that's Sean Wilson, came up behind me and he's got a rip it and he's offering me a rip it.
I was wondering what it was. I couldn't see what it was.
Yeah, it's one of those little small like
Yeah,
deployment
yeah,
rippers.
yeah. The
Yeah.
purple ones.
Yep.
Uh, well, the reason why I like this picture is because we had the vice president was going to Afghanistan, so some of the guys had to sit out there for 3 days, and this asshole only showed up for 2 hours and left. So while they were outside setting up for the 3 days, just make sure he was coming in, we had the same issue. So what we did, we were at the fob. Inside the fob, we was no signal. So what we had to do is put one of the antennas on top of three 2x4s. So Siren Fleet is on top of the Humvee holding the 2x4s, and we're doing the radio checks at the bottom. So I got the picture where he's over here holding the 2x4s with the antenna all the way on top, trying to
Yeah.
get signal. I was like,
Yeah,
bro,
that's exactly what that is. I'm standing on the bed of a pickup truck with the radio up there trying to get a radio check in.
yeah, now like man, bro. So it was one. I think you got the old guy from Poke. Which one was it? There he goes. When was
Yeah,
this training?
that's Afghanistan too.
Is
So
Afghanistan too?
we duct taped Lieutenant Murdoch to a Skedco and then stood him up and took a picture with him.
That was you, lieutenant, right there.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, good times. Hey man, that's what I tell a lot of people, man. Even though you're over there, you're always trying to make good times. Like something
Oh
good
yeah.
happens. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like can't be all bad. Like you gotta have fun over there.
Yeah, they I
Uh,
got duct taped to a tow bar on the front of a Max Pro. Like they were gonna stand me up. It took a fight. It was a fight, but
uh,
I got outnumbered and they got me.
hey, don't fight it, man. I learned not to fight it. Like fuck
Just
it, let's
let it
go.
happen. Nah,
Get
man,
get
I
it
went kicking and screaming.
get it over with. Man, we got it all the way out. Man, we got a couple of comments. Who was that? Joe. Wow, I had to help you with one of your cars. Also, good thing I can drive a trailer. Yes. Yeah, man. Like I had to. I'm always out, so I got a trailer. I like, I need you to stay at the house. If I break down, I need you to learn how to drive the trailer because you will pick me up.
Yeah,
And I broke down, and the guy like, "You sure you're gonna call your wife?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, she's good." So she had to learn how to drive the trailer because she's like, "Why you always breaking down?" Like, man, you don't know what's gonna happen. Cars are
yeah. That's
sensitive, man.
my wife can drive a Hemet with a trailer on it, so she's solid.
Yeah. No, but that's one of the things that hey, man, I'm glad she's there to help. What's going on over here, Captain
So
America?
uh, that was, I think, our last night at JAF. We were getting ready to fly out to Bagram. So we took that picture out in front of that was behind our barracks. So that was a flag that I actually still have. Uh, so that's that flag. So
Hell yeah.
my dad built me a flag case, and I actually took this to Galveston Beach on not Galveston Beach. It was Port Aransas on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And dude, let me tell you about this story, and then I'm gonna have to hop off because I've got to pee. Uh, but yeah, I took that flag down to Port Aransas with me on Memorial Day weekend. And my dad had sent me that case, and I was down there with a couple of buddies that were military. One of the guys that was there, his dad was in special forces back in the surge, so like
Yeah.
had seen some stuff. So we took that down there, and I was like, "Hey, this is a flag I took with me to Afghanistan. Like, it's kind of special. I'd like to like fold it up and like do something small with just us and like put it in this case." And they were all about it. So we folded it, and we put a speaker up and we were playing the song by Johnny Cash, "The Ragged Old Flag." And it was like
Okay.
originally it was just us. And dude, I turned around and there were probably 70 people that had stopped and taken their hats off and were watching us like do this. And so like I took a second, like told everybody kind of like what we were doing. And dude, like by the time we folded that flag and put it in that case, there was not a dry eye on the beach.
Damn.
Um, and so like it was special, man. And so like if you look in the case, like you can see some of the sand from Port Aransas and stuff. But like it gave me hope for humanity in that like they saw us folding a flag, like probably could tell we were military because like the haircuts and stuff, and like like legitimately like 70 people stopped and we're just like, hey, this is special. I don't even know what's going on, but like we're gonna take a second. And so like there's still some love for the country out there, and it just takes like one instance to show it.
Hell yeah. Well, bro, before you go, man, I just want to tell you thank you for coming over here to the channel. Thank you for opening up, man. Hopefully other people that are still active duty go look for help if they need it. Help is there while you're active and whenever you come and become a civilian, become a veteran. So again, brother, anything you gotta say before we leave?
Nah, man, that's it. I think that'll wrap it up for tonight. If you want to have me back at some point, for sure,
Man,
like I'll
we're
come
gonna have
back.
to. We're
Yeah,
gonna
man,
have to,
that'll be
man.
awesome.
Like, you're gonna have to bring those pictures back.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, no, but again, bro, thank you for coming to the channel, man. I'll let you go. I know you got things to do.
Of course, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. Let me
All right,
see where
man.
we at.